Statistically wise, there must be something to global warming. Is that what you're saying? Well, you know, that's another thing. I don't remember growing up as a kid back in the late 60s, 70s, and 80s. I'm 61. But I don't remember I don't remember it warming up to freaking 85 and 90 degrees in December and having freaking tornadoes popping out of the sky like's been going on here. A matter of fact, that barge right there looks to me like he's running. He ain't running full steam, is he? He's pretty slow right there. He's running about half, and plus, also look at that too. He don't have but 2 bundles. I've seen as long as having 10 bundles, haven't you?
Yeah.
Maybe even 12 or 14.
They're not pushing barges like it was. I saw them 2 go down there and it didn't look like it wide as it could be.
I guarantee you, if a person could make it to where that brown stuff is over there, which I guess is the dirt, I'm assuming that's the bottom of the river over there. If they could make it to that point right there, heck, they could walk all the way to Missouri, couldn't they? Isn't that Missouri right across from us? That's the only thing separates us from Missouri, isn't it?
Yeah.
Is the river. And of course, if you go down by Dyersburg, 155, that's still Missouri right there. But now if you go down to Memphis and cross over the Mississippi, you're in Arkansas. So somewhere between Dyersburg and Memphis is where it shuts off pertaining to the Delta. They call that the Delta. I seen a program one time. The reason why Missouri wound up with a dog leg is because there was some farmers that wasn't going to let go of some property.
Yeah.
And I mean, they stood firm towards, they was dead set that they was a Missourian. They was not going to be a Razorback come hell or high water. And they fought them until finally they just, I guess the state just gave up. Yeah. But yeah, they kept that whole Delta on the Missouri side. There's been lots of fights over territorial disputes. You know it?
Oh, yeah. Is he still coming?
Yeah, he's going slow. That's a small one compared to that one.
You talking about that vessel boat? There's a vessel boat down there that carries passengers about 4 or 5 stories in height. It's a vessel boat. Probably take people on tours and stuff, is what I'm thinking. I didn't know that they opened that back up, and I thought that it was a paddle boat.
Yeah, I ain't never seen nothing like that on here.
I ain't neither. Not for a touring boat. Usually the touring boat is that thing. It's got the big paddles on it that look like. Yeah, that's it. But what are those people out west going to do pertaining to their reservoirs drying up like that?
They trying to figure that out.
What are they going to do? You know, people, scientists, for some reason, they don't have no common sense. And first of all, they waited probably about 5 to 7 years before they should have raised a red flag to that situation out there.
Yeah.
But it's not just the heat that's doing this. It's not just the lack of rain that's doing this. You know what it is? It's a combination of 3 things. You know what it is? The environment's one of them. Okay. The other one is that we bring so many immigrants over here to America, California has been flooded in the past 25 or 30 years, and their population rate over there has doubled, if not tripled. In other words, if you got 20 million people dragging water off the same pool, and all of a sudden you increase that to 40 million people or 60 million people, you're going to be draining that reservoir twice as fast, if not 3 times faster than what you was before.
Yeah, that's another fuel barge.
Is that what that is, a fuel barge?
Fuel barge.
The one that like just got through going down through here?
And ain't but 2 of them loaded.
And he don't have a double-decker on him too? Oh, he's got 3?
Yep.
But still, that's awful small load, because
Yeah, it ain't nothing what they.
oh, I've seen them probably 8 or 12 wide, and I've seen them probably 12 or 14 long, haven't you?
Big toes coming down this line.
But you ain't gonna find, you probably wouldn't make it right now, would you?
I doubt it.
That's probably the reason why they had to narrow up their load and lighten it too, to bring it up a little higher. You see the one right there that's real low versus the other one that's the low one right there. It's the 2 lower ones right there. They're full, and that one on the front, it's he may have a little bit in it, but I bet you he's doing that for a reason. And you know what the reason would be? A breaker. In other words, that front one is breaking the water to where the other ones, the water flow will already be flowing. You know what I'm saying? It already be moving in the direction that they want it to go in. But you can tell by the listening to them, they just idling, ain't they? And I have seen them, and I know you have too, where they had 2 tugs. 2 tugs pushing it. I don't think I've ever seen 3, but I have seen 2. And I've seen them about 8 to 12 wide and about 14 long.
Yeah, because they had got to break them up and get them moved up.
I bet you the people that work them boats right there, I bet you this is whenever it gets dangerous.
Oh, I don't know.
You know, it is. Well, I know you don't need to take a regular old flat bottom boat out there, do you?
A lot of people do. You just messing with your life right there.
You get one of them swirls and you liable to not come out, huh?
Just wrong bit of water. You ain't gonna come out.
I was talking to a guy about a month or so ago up in Paris, Tennessee, that worked in barges like that. He said the odds of you falling off one of those barges and you surviving it, he said, is slim to none. He said, because once you get in that water, it's so much turmoil going on in the water. He said, just about the time you think you're fixing to come up to the top, it'll drag you back down again. He said it'll just keep dragging you and dragging you and dragging you till you just run all out of breath, and then you basically just drowned.
You remember President Johnson's old Lady Bird Johnson, Lyndon Johnson?
I know of the history of it a little bit.
Well, it was 2 of her dredges that I worked on. She owned.
Okay.
And we was required to wear a life jacket when we was working out there, but none of us did. If somebody fell off, they told you right quick, you fall off. Said, we're going to throw a life jacket in the water. So you had a life jacket when you went in there. I mean, you ain't going to come out of it.
Even with a life jacket on.
Well, I mean, they just jump, you know.
But what it is that turbulence, that
That's a lot of water running down that little place right there.
well, it ain't just that turbulence, but it's the turbulence right next to that boat. That creates that much more turbulence, and if you fall off the thing, you know you're going to fall off within 6 or 8, 10 foot of the side of it, and that's where all the turbulence is. And you cannot get out of that turbulence. It'll drag you down.
The main boss up there, though, now he's been on the river all his life when I was working up there. He had a kid, about 10-year-old, and he take that kid up front of one of them barges now and chunk him off, and somebody back there on his back would catch him.
Was what?
Would catch him, throw a rope, he'd grab onto that. He'd let him swim that far. Now, you talking about tough, they was tough. You know, he swam the length of that barge.
Moving?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, the dredge wouldn't. We were sitting out there field, but the water was moving.
Yeah, the water was
The
moving.
water would take him back there back and catch a rope.
Wow.
They'd drag him in.
What if he didn't get that rope at one time?
Oh, he'd be gone.
You think so?
Yes, sir. Ain't no way you swim out of right there, daggone, in certain places. That's the way that kid down there swimming in that water, and it's calm right there where he's at. They wouldn't take but one swirl wrong way. There's a lot of undertow right there at that spot.
It'd be like the undertow in the ocean. You know, have you ever swam at the ocean?
I've been in the ocean. I ain't swam. I ain't waded around.
Well, I mean, if you get out there pretty deep and all of a sudden it's going back in, back in towards the ocean, it's so powerful sometimes it'll drag you plumb off your feet and drag you 15, 20 feet, maybe 30 feet out into the deep. And then if you don't swim like you know what towards getting back to the bank, then there'll be another one that'll drag you that much further back. You know what I'm saying? You can get up in them swirls. You got to be a daggum good swimmer to get out of something like that. Yeah, you got to be an athlete. But it seems like the river got real low. I think it was, if I'm remembering right, long about 1993 or something like that. It got so low that they literally had to stop the barges. But now I looked it up a while ago on Google, and the lowest that it's ever been was in 1940. They must have had a heck of a dry year that year. But the way that it's going right now, I mean, if it dropped 2 foot and 9 inches, yet from in 24-hour period, if it keeps going like it's going, they'll end up having to stop the barges this year, won't they?
Them trucking and get good.
And, all that's got to do with the rains up north. If they're not getting plentiful rains up towards Minnesota and up towards, off the Ohio, off the Indiana and the Kentucky, I mean, that's all got to do with all this. And, of course, the Tennessee feeds into it somewhere. Where's Tennessee feed into it at? Somewhere around Paducah, don't it? Up that way. Yeah, it's up there pretty close to Paducah, the Tennessee River. I think the Tennessee flows into the Ohio, and the Ohio flows into the Tennessee, if I'm not mistaken.
Where is it up there at K Road? Like there's one comes in at K Road, Illinois.
Which would be just basically west of Paducah, 10, 12, 15 miles.
Yeah.
We got an Obion River where I live over in Weakley County, and it comes out on the Mississippi, but I think it flows into the Duck River, and then the Duck River flows into the Mississippi somewhere down there around Dyersburg. It's either this side of Dyersburg or the other side of Dyersburg. It flows into the river there.
Well, we beat the hell out. I'm gonna go over and look at that other boat.
See what that is?
Yeah, see what it is.
Do I need to move?
No, we got plenty of room.
Okay. Hey, I was going to tell you my philosophy. Hang on for a second. Come here for a second. Whenever you go from having 20 million to 40 million and 60 million, I mean, you can look it up on the internet what the population is just out in California alone. But whenever you look at that whole region has been bombarded with all kind of people, especially with all the immigrants coming out of Mexico and all the immigrants coming from the northern areas and stuff.
Yeah.
Plus, God has showed me that the ozone layer that we're putting carbon dioxide up into towards breaking down the greenhouse, that's only part of the damage that we're doing. That's a good sounding little Mustang there, ain't it? What the other part, the damage is that the oil that we're draining from the earth was put there for a heat shield to eliminate the heat, which is in the center of the earth. It's called the mantle.
Yeah.
To eliminate that heat from rising up to the outer surfaces. Plus, that oil was put there every time the rocks move together, because they've done proved that the earth is like a organism. It's constantly shifting and moving with the oceans going in and out. That oil was put there to eliminate the friction, and if you got more friction because you don't have oil, you got heat. Heat causes what? Expansion. They're saying that the reason why we're getting these harsh floods is because the ozone layer above the cloud has gotten a whole lot more hotter, and because it's hotter, the moisture goes up higher, and as the moisture goes up higher, there's more moisture up there, and then whenever it does release, it all comes down at one time, and that's what's causing the massive flooding like recently just got through hitting in eastern Kentucky. And of course, Yellowstone got hit this year, and last year Waverly got 17.5 inches in about 6.5 hours.
All these storms cause
yes,
global warming.
yes, we are affecting the natural habitat of this planet on a day-to-day level.
Burning fossil fuel.
Yes, sir. And the petroleum product people, they have known it now for 25, 30 years. See, Al Gore could have got presidency if he didn't mention about the environmental crisis. And everybody thought he was crazy. He lost the presidency. The people in Tennessee wouldn't hold him up because they thought he was a nut. Hey, take care of yourself. Good talking to you here. We're in trouble. We're in trouble as a planetarian Homo sapiens society. And these signs is showing up all over the planet, just like Jesus Christ had predicted towards trying to forewarn people of the very things that now we are seeing on a day-to-day level that's only drastically getting worse and worse. And you know, there's only two ideals that I can think of that would help the people out west, which would be basically to take the pipeline that they was going to use for the oil pipeline, or one like it, and start building pipe either to the Missouri River, which basically comes down through Kansas and Arkansas, and it also goes down through Oklahoma and probably on down through New Mexico somewhere. They're either going to have to pipe water to those areas, or they're going to have to do like Israel's doing right now over in Jerusalem, Israel. They have had this project going on. I think it was a little less than $1 billion, about $500 million, in bringing in pipe from the ocean that basically takes all the salt water out of the ocean, that by the time it gets to where they need it, I don't know if they get it out of the Dead Sea, or I don't know where they get the water out of. I'd have to look at the map. But by the time it gets over there to them, it is cleaned up enough that they can use it for drinking water, which is a marvel defeat in and of itself towards being able to do anything like that. They said it's pretty costly for right now because of the way that they're doing it. I think they said it was about $5 or $6 a gallon by the time it gets to them, pertaining to the price. But I'm sure the price of that will go down as they're using fresh water in that area. But who would have thought that the world would be heating up, and that's one reason, probably reason why our humidity level has been so high, is because basically we've been heating up the ground up underneath our feet and not realizing it, and it's drying up waterways, it's drying up rivers and streams, and it's causing the environment to go crazy as far as doing things that it ordinarily don't never do. And of course, if you'll combine that with all the people, the population growth that has hit just within the past 25, 30 years, I guess basically since World War II, pertaining to the boomers, because the boomers didn't just happen here in America. The boomers happened all over Europe and Germany, and basically all over the world, in places, more so over in that part of the world than Africa or Asia. But if the world is heating up like I'm thinking that it is, heat causes moisture to expand and go up. As the moisture is going higher into the atmosphere, it's causing erratic weather imbalances that ordinarily we don't or haven't never seen, that now we are seeing. And like that gentleman was talking a while ago, I've seen the river this low, but not much lower than this. And I'm thinking it was somewhere around 96 or 98, may have been 94, that it got this low. And then I looked it up on the internet, and there was another deal it was talking about. I think it said in 2012 it got real low. But if you'll look at all that brown right there, that used to be all underwater. Every bit of it used to be all underwater. And I guarantee you, if you took a boat and went out there probably about, I don't know, I'm thinking probably about 1,000 yards, maybe a little more than 1,000 yards, and you got out there to that brown, I guarantee you could start walking, and you could walk all the way to the edge of the other side of the Mississippi River, which would put you in the state of Missouri, and you could walk up the bank and you would be in Missouri. You would be in the state of Missouri. And of course, if you went down below Dyersburg, probably about, I'm thinking maybe about 40 or 50 miles. I guess it's probably about halfway between Dyersburg and Memphis, that if you go down in that area, the Mississippi being low, once you got to the other side, you'd be coming out on the Arkansas side. Where Bill Clinton's from, the great state of Arkansas. Razorbacks, Razorback, Arkansas. But it's not good to see signs like this towards what is occurring, and it happened more frequently than what you can imagine. Because it's one thing to see the river drop maybe once or twice in a lifetime, but to sit here and see it drop, I guess this makes about the fourth or fifth time that I've seen it drop on this magnitude, this low. That obviously something is going on upstream pertaining to the rains coming from the Illinois and St. Louis and on up towards the Minnesota side, and something obviously is going on pertaining to the Ohio towards not dumping its water supply into the river like it should be. And if it continues to keep dropping, it's a very strong possibility that they could have to, instead of just diminishing some of their barges, they'd have to actually stop until fall hit and we started falling back into our rainy season. The river's definitely low. I'm in Tiptonville, Northwest Tennessee, down by Reelfoot Lake, where the river in 1812 or 1811, 1812, whenever the great earthquake hit, caused the mighty Mississippi to run backwards for 3 days and 3 nights to fill up Reelfoot Lake. I'm just south of the Kentucky-Tennessee state line, basically where Hickman, Kentucky is the beginning areas of Kentucky. So the way the crow flies, I'm probably not, but maybe, I'm going to say 15 to 20 miles from the state of Kentucky. And of course, if you go across the river right here, which is probably about a mile, maybe 2 miles, looks as deceiving whenever you can see something this clear. It makes it look like it's actually closer than it is, but it's probably about a mile and a half, 2 miles to the very outer edge. You'd be in the state of Missouri. I ain't heard nothing on the news about the river getting low, but I'm sure if it continues to keep dropping, it's just a matter of time before it will. It usually always does whenever it gets real low. It usually always does. Hey, you ever seen the river get that low?
That's the first time we've been out here.
Really?
Yep.
The river's really low, isn't it?
I think so. A lot of land.
I know.
A lot of land.
You could literally walk to Missouri from here.
I think you could.
I know you could if you could swim. Of course, it'd be a tough swim. You'd have to be an athlete. You'd have to be an athlete to swim. That's probably a half a mile just in the water right there, but then probably about another mile and a half of nothing but ground, and you'd be in Missouri. So y'all ain't never been down here?
Not this far.
I see. Well, there was another Jeep that pulled up by the time you did that looked almost identical to yours. Did you see it? Had something on his front end,
Huh.
like a pulling bar or something. Take care of yourself.
See you, man.
Yep.